E3 here, embodied, empowered, and ecstatic, just as I am. So this practice is going to explore, well, what about before the name E3? That name was given to me by one of my teachers around a year and a half ago. But what about before my parents gave me the name Ethan? Hey, welcome to whoever is here. Hey, Ian. So I'm sharing a really powerful practice that I've done many, many times in many different ways. This can be done individually. Well, actually, it can only be done individually, but it can have a powerful impact on the collective. So we all have a name. The name, it's like a mantra, it's like an affirmation. It's like Pavlov's dog. Somebody says the name, and why do we respond? We identify with the name. And not only that, we often identify memories, beliefs, different energies connected with the name. And what's sad is if there are negative beliefs, negative energies connected with our name. Hey, Chad, thanks for being here. Speaking of name. So it's helpful to look at the name we have, the name we identify with, but the practice I want to share with you is, what about the original name that our parents gave us? And also, what about even before we were given a name, when we were in the pre-name state? So one of the practices I've been doing a lot, not very recently, but probably do it again today, is being the angel ally for my former self. And you could do this for any time. It could be 10 minutes ago, it could be 10 years ago, but it's really helpful to go back to any traumas you can remember, any disconnection patterns, any times where there was, let alone if there was abuse, if there was different types of traumas, if there was addiction patterns, if there was deep escape routines, you as the more aware, evolved, and integrated being, you could be the angel ally and psychically go back to those times. And there are many different things that you can do. Oh, and those times could include even before you, or while you were still in the mother's womb. Because the origin of most, or a lot of traumas begin in the mother's womb. That's the primary influence. The mother's inner dialogue, the mother's energy, much more than the father's. Yeah, the father's thought patterns and energy does influence the child while in the womb, but it's the mother's energy that we are in the beginning. So it can be really helpful to go back to that state too. And you can decide, do you want to just hold space and be present with the former you that was there? Because on the quantum level, the past, present, and future, they are connected. So this is why it's really beautiful to do healing on going back to the past. Welcome to everyone who's here. I'm just sharing a beautiful angel ally self-healing practice because it's very hard to be a slave to something external if we're fairly integrated. It's pretty easy to be a slave and to listen to Big Daddy if there's unresolved traumas and fears, addictions, disconnection patterns, erroneous beliefs that have been programmed into us since possibly since we were in the mother's womb. Education, if you want to call it that, it's more like programming, so we could be serving the system. So there are many different ways to do this, and you find your own way. One way I've done it is to simply be present with myself in the past who went through the traumas, who went through thousands of times of the same escape patterns, just being present and offering love to that former self, that can be really healing. You can have conversations with any people in your past. Hey, Joni, thanks for being here. So I'm sharing with you a beautiful an angel ally self-healing practice. Now, sometimes you might get the message, which I've gotten at times, that nothing in the timeline needs to be changed. For example, you might go back to a past experience that was very painful and traumatic and caused a lot of fragmentation in the mind. But maybe, and this is up to you to tune into, maybe your intuition is telling you that nothing actually needs to be changed because you are on your highest path right now. Hey, Kirsty, thanks for being here. But that's up to you to decide. So when you are the angel ally for your former self, you can actually bring healing and love to people in the past, not just yourself. You can, for example, I did this with my parents. I was the angel ally in my psychic healing journey that I did. And I would go into the past and communicate with them when they were children, going through their trauma, their abuse, their dysfunction, their disconnection patterns, their needs not being met. And I was the angel ally communicating with them from a higher frequency than they experienced when they were little children at the origins of their trauma. And then these traumatized adults with unresolved traumas and fears and programs, they have children and they pass them on to their children. So this is a really important and beautiful practice that we can do. And then, like I said, we'll be less susceptible to re-traumatization, you could say. Because many adults right now, chronologically, we are at a certain age, but energetically, psychologically, just little children, you could say. So now is the time to call upon our angel allies, and this is a really exciting, you could say it's a scary time, but it's also very, very exciting, because the new world, the new earth is going to be created from this higher frequency of humans, just like you and I, bringing heaven and earth together. So acknowledging all the traumas of the past, which led to the external traumas happening now. And then we have the opportunity. We can't wait for the little babies and the children right now. We are the ones who have to integrate our previous generation's dysfunction. And we get to bring in the new generation's function. So this is a really beautiful practice that we can do. It's something that's helped me a lot. So again, there are two main ways that I've done it. I'm sure there are many other ways, but one way is to go to a specific time in your past. Just seeing who's here. Go to a specific time in your past. Hey Pam, thanks for being here. Be the angel ally. Communicate with your former self that went through that trauma, whatever the trauma was, and intuitively do guide or do healing for yourself, for anyone else in that situation. And you might notice a shift in your present reality and what is created for you in your future. I've definitely had to do this in my own life because there has been so much trauma emotionally in many ways that I picked up from parents, from my environment, from the society, and then also that I guess I would say chose, but in the beginning it was unconscious, kept on repeating the same exact patterns, which led to the glioblastoma in the first place. So what I am doing is working on all levels, physically, healing the glioblastoma, but also emotionally and energetically, bringing awareness to and healing the every different part of the trauma and the abuse and the poisons, psychological poisons, emotional, physical. There's quite a bit of pain right now, and it's like the left side of the body, I've noticed it got a little bit like more numb and weak yesterday, so I'm just tuning into that. Just wanted to share this practice with you. Does anyone have any questions, anything that you want to share about, or any other ideas of ways that this practice can be done? We have to look at the psychology, not just the physiology of what's happening in the world right now. This has been an overlooked aspect of everything that's happening. Talk about politics, the science of COVID, the economics. But what about the psychology? What about the energy and the psychology of what's happening right now? This is very important to look at. And this has happened before. This has happened many, many times, and it's not a new thing where leaders, well, they're not actually real leaders, but like fragmented adults who have the power. See, the leaders who are not really leaders, they understand psychology. They understand astrology. They know very well how to control people. So what do we do? Hey, Katie, thanks for being here. So what I'm doing is what I'm sharing with you. There's the physiology of what we're looking at. But then there's also the psychology. So the psychology kind of has a bad rap, you could say, or it seems like a dirty word. But understanding our own inner dialogue and creating integration between the many different voices is a way that we can awaken our intuition and our love and our connection to our life path and our creativity and our real magic when we are integrating all of the different voices inside. So I believe that now we have the opportunity to do that. All of these fragmented beings on the planet, it's all coming to the surface right now, which is a lot of society. You could say most of society, the individuals are fragmented. So we're creating a new earth, and the new earth, the old earth is falling away. The old earth is dying. So the new earth will be created with real leaders, real masters, real experts, real education, real science, real music, real art, and many other real practices. So the way that if there is any safety, I would say that it's, well, facing death in your own way, facing pain, feeding your life purpose, creating integration as best as you can, having as much fun as you can in this situation, so feeling free now. That's why I like the affirmation, I am embodied, I am empowered, I am ecstatic, just as I am. So not waiting until there's full integration, whatever that means, until you feel the ecstasy, but every step of the way. It's kind of a high practice, and it's easier said than done. Or another way of saying that is authenticity every step of the way, as best as you can. And that, you could say that like there's integration, authenticity, and then a higher level of integration, higher. So that's the path I'm on. Pretty extreme pain every moment, physical limitations, the glioblastoma, let alone what's happening in the world. So I'm trying to master this in my own way. It's very humbling. Can't even type with my left hand. There's so much that I cannot do. Even I started to create a 3-week course. I could teach it right now. In a sense, I am teaching it right now. The 3-week course is called 5 Seconds of Surrender, Mastering the Death Rebirth Portal. But I haven't been able to create the course because of the inability to type with my left hand, the pain. So it's a very interesting position for me to be in. Like the experience is here, the love is here, the training is here, the wisdom is here. But there are certain limitations that prevent creating more. So my path is kind of just trusting and communicating with the universe in the middle of pain and challenges. Trusting the body can heal. Pretty much all day long, fighting for my life with a smile in my heart. And then when I can help other people, doing that all day long, back and forth. Hey, Newell. So yeah, I was sharing I'll just go over it briefly. This practice is a very powerful practice that can have real positive effects on yourself and others. It can be very intense. It requires a warrior energy. And by the way, we need more heroes, feminine and masculine. The hero's journey is not just masculine. So we need women heroes and male heroes. We need women who integrate as much as they can before they have children. We need men who integrate as much as they can before they have children. And if we've already had children, we need compassion for ourselves and our parents. But this visualization, if you have the courage to do it, it's basically, there are different ways to do it. You give yourself time and imagine that you are the angel ally for your former self. You are the therapist, you are the coach, you are God for your former self. And you can go back to one time in the past, or you could go back to as many times as you want. But go back to that time and make it be intuitive. You can communicate with your former self. Like you could be the big brother or sister for your former self. And what would you say to that person who was traumatized, who went through that pain, who went through the same pattern again and again and again? What would you say to them? And you can imagine that each of those experiences is like one tiny little part. So you don't have to bring the healing to the whole thing at the same time. So yeah, make it very intuitive. You can visualize that you're guiding the former self through breathing. You're doing Reiki on that former self. You are communicating with him or her. You are just being present. Like, for example, if somebody was raped, you could go back to that time and just be present in that experience. Just hold space for everyone involved. And of course, there are many different ways to do this practice, but that's just one example. And you'll also need to tune in. Does anything need to be changed about the experience, or is it perfect as it was? So there's not one right way to do this exercise. And you could bring healing and presence to your former self or any other people in your life. You can communicate with, if there were parents or any friends or other people in the situation, you can communicate with them in that situation, or you can even imagine that they are little children, go back to their childhoods and bring healing there. if healing is necessary. So these are some of the really powerful practices that can really help us individually and then collectively, because we're all just experiencing trauma again worldwide, and how we react to it often depends on how much trauma we still have that's unresolved with our parents, with our authority figures, with our so-called teachers and leaders growing up. And then as we grow up, if we didn't clear those unhealthy patterns, it's just another opportunity to well, for the dark forces in the world, they're aware of this. It's another opportunity for them to prey on the unintegrated adult. But now we have resources in the universe to integrate and to love ourselves and to heal. So I know this is a scary time. It is for my passive machine mind. There's fear, there's pain every day, even right now. There are physical limitations. There are financial limitations. There are community limitations in my personal life. But there is, luckily, a space inside of my mind and my heart that is limitless, that is getting better and better every day, facing pain, facing death, and also facing the dreams in my heart. So I feel like this is why we're all here, everyone in this live stream or who's watching this video. This is not easy for us. We are the ones who have to deal with our previous generation's crap, whether it was quite literally being in your mother's womb as she had her fear thoughts or whatever thoughts. Unless she was a very integrated being, an evolved being, it's possible. I have no idea. But it's possible that while in your mother's womb, can you imagine, like, even as an adult, being in an environment with negative thoughts and emotions and energies will have an impact on you. But can you imagine being in a mother's womb for however many months, 9 months, in that innocent space and picking up on a mother's fear thoughts, fear emotions, let alone if she had toxins running in her body, let alone the environment she might have grown up in. This is no judgment, but it's just to acknowledge how deep this goes, and we can bring healing to it. It is possible. We live in a, you could call it a quantum, non-linear reality, where we can bring healing, quite literally, to our former self when we were in the mother's womb. And it can have a positive impact on our life just as we are now. And that's a really beautiful thing. But if we don't do it, these same patterns keep on repeating again and again and again. And why do they repeat? It's a good question to ask. But now is the time not for judging anyone else or ourselves or being hard on ourselves or being hard on anyone else. I believe now is the time for compassion, for a positive attitude of gratitude, creativity. Everything can be transmuted to a higher frequency. I'm not identifying with it, but I could say my brain cancer, I'll just call it the brain cancer, can and will be transmuted to higher frequencies of the highest health I have ever experienced since I was a child, maybe even higher levels of health. That's my vision. That's where I'm going. And so yeah, that's the cool thing about the reality we live in. Anything can be transmuted into anything. This is the real alchemy. It's not just trying to turn different metals into gold. There's the inner alchemy. And this is, it's important because what do we all want? We could say love, but it's a vibration. We've all felt it. I call it my unique vibration. You might have a different name for love. But so we can, so that's the challenge right now with all these challenges in the world, trusting this vibration that this love inside of your heart is real, and it can lead to physical manifestation. One of my teachers often says, energy precedes physiology. It's not that physiology is not real now, it is, but I really feel like we're creating the new earth with our energy, with our hearts, with our minds. Yes, our minds. The mind is not bad. The mind is not ego. There's so many, there are different minds. I call it the passive machine mind. It's like a thought, a fear, an energy, an image in our consciousness that comes up that we didn't even want there in the first place, that disconnects us from our creativity and our love. But there's also the active machine mind. It's like when even watching this video could be an active machine mind thought for you. Well, it could be passive machine mind, but if you're letting these thoughts in on purpose, it's the active machine mind. Or if you think on purpose, like this meditation I just described, you can use the active machine mind to go back to your previous pain or trauma, and you could be the angel ally, you could be the big brother or the big sister for your former self. That's much different than watching a movie and just letting it passively go into your consciousness. You're using your mind. That's the active machine mind. And then the living mind, or what a friend helped me coin the loving mind, is when you're using the active machine mind, but then there's intuition that comes through. There's creativity. There's something beyond the fear thoughts. There's something beyond even the logical thoughts. So that's the living mind, and that's really powerful. You know how, like, if you've ever had an inspiring thought or idea, like, wow, where did that come from? But it felt real, and I followed it, and then something beautiful happened. Or I just got an intuitive hit, and it turned out to be true. So that's the living mind. So forget what my point was. But yeah, it's a constant practice, especially now, to be very mindful of the energies that we let into our environment. I know for me, for sure, it's like, wow, so many limitations in all areas of my life. So I'm trying to trust that, well, the pain is here. The pain will probably continue. I'm doing my best to release the pain and to heal. But if there's going to be the pain, which is kind of like a purification, you could call it, how can I use this pain and purification to support my soul's path? Because either way, I'm going to leave this body. So, yeah, this is something most of humanity runs away from also. Death, pain. I guess most of us would, or a lot of people would rather be slaves than have a little bit of discomfort or pain for freedom. I know for sure I am committed to my soul's highest path. And yeah, that means saying no to certain things in the external world, and you could fill in the blanks there. Saying no to certain things energetically, saying no to certain frequencies, and saying yes to my heart's dreams. And then the rest is out of my control, you know. But I think it's important, and like I've seen in my own life, that's part of the reason why I'm still alive now, is because I've said no to certain energies, from doctors, from treatments, from people in my life. Yes, even mother and father. Yes, even brothers and sisters. Yes, even professional medical doctors. I have said no, because my intuition sometimes is stronger and more accurate than them. So it's like, that's my truth, and I think we each have an intuition that is guiding us. It's important to look at information and data, and I don't know anything about anything really, So I'm always open to learning, but the intuition is always here. Like, we don't have to learn it. It's kind of cliche, but we just have to unlearn the programming. We're born as intuitive beings, unless, going back, there was just so much trauma and disconnection while we were in the mother's womb. In that case, we come out of the womb traumatized. So it's like, my prayer is that children who are born in the future won't have to go through years of healing to integrate. Wouldn't that be beautiful? That would be amazing. But we have a humanity, or a group of humans, who have to heal from traumas. So it is what it is. It's part of our soul's path. This is filtered ionized water with Shilajit in it. It's really good. So Big Daddy is not going to help us. Big Biden is not going to help us. Big whoever is not going to help us. They didn't talk about psychology in the debates. They didn't talk about emotional intelligence. They didn't talk about our immune system, our connection with nature, our connection with ancient technologies. So we have to do it from the root up. So that's what I'm trying to do. This is very humbling. It's like, I can't type with my left hand. And I want to write so many books. The dictation programs suck. Really bad. They're not good enough. And it's like, so I have a 3-week course that I've created the outline for. There's too much pain to actually create a slideshow right now. So I'm just trying to do every day what I can. And when I'm not making these videos, I'm just either cold shower, praying, meditating, breathing, self-massage, deep cleansing practices, releasing every remaining fear and addiction that I have, addiction to thought forms, addiction to negative projections, all day long, trying to release these, and trusting that I can create optimum health. I really do believe that. I believe I can. That's the path that I'm on. But yeah, it's kind of humbling. Don't mean to rant here, but I just wanted to share this visualization, meditation practice. It's really powerful. I've observed, often it's interesting what humans do. If there's an argument, for example, with somebody, that argument happens once. But often we repeat the argument many, many times in our head. It's an interesting thing to do. And what's also interesting is that the argument can create certain emotions and neural pathways and chemical reactions in our body during the actual argument. And even when we repeat the argument, we have that same physiological response. So we're actually having that same experience again and again. So that's something to be mindful of. And then also, I've observed in myself that I'll often speak to other people in my mind before I speak to them verbally. So I notice that if I can shift the dialogue that I have with them, and sometimes even what I think they would say, and then respond to that in my own mind first, either things improve automatically on the external with that person without even talking to them. And that's a really cool thing to experience. It's like magic. That you can shift the conversation inside of your consciousness, even without saying anything to the person. And then you'll notice, wow, something shifted. And at the very least, if you do that, then when you do speak to them, at least you'll have Oh yeah, well, this is part of what I wanted to share. It's almost like you're rehearsing what you'll say to them ahead of time. So you want the rehearsal to be a beautiful rehearsal. And then also it's good practice to dialogue with people in your head and be present with them just in your own consciousness. And this happens really quickly. Like, I guess you could say these are advanced psychological principles. I don't know, that a lot of people don't even explore, but I found them to be really helpful practices. So again, we can go to the past and make it easy. Like, and you can write a letter to your former self or the person in the past. You could speak to them. You can ask God or any angel guides to support you. Many different ways to do this exercise. But you might notice a positive shift happens in your life. Like an actual, like if there's a stress now, is it possible to bring healing to the past and then the present will become easier? I think so. So there are many different ways we could do it in the present, the future, and the past. My body hurts so much, so I need to lay down and breathe. Maybe fall asleep too. So thank you so much for your connection. And if I can humbly request prayers that I will, because I know it's like my karma, the pain and all that stuff, and it's my dharma. But it would be nice to get out of pain, be able to just type without extreme pain and aggravating pre-seizure auras. Definitely a practice and faith for me that God and my higher self has a higher plan for me. But yeah, if I can ask for prayers, release the pain, deeper healing. I want prosperity on all levels. I want to bring forth my highest gifts, which are here now, but I want to bring them forth fully before I leave the body. So thank you very much for these prayers, and may the blessings come back to you infinitely. Okay, with all of that, those words being said, if you'd like to join me for an E3 affirmation, reminding ourselves that love is here now, miracles are here now, happiness is here now, just as everything is. Okay, so I'll do one round if you'd like to join. Nice and slow. We'll start with an inhale. And exhale. Okay, and we'll begin. I am embodied. And if you want to repeat, I am embodied. I am empowered. I am empowered. I am ecstatic. And then I inhale and exhale. I am ecstatic. So feeling your own form of ecstasy in this moment and inhaling and exhaling and grounding into this moment just as you are. All right, well, fist bump for you. Thanks for joining me. Sending love, good luck, or luck. Good practice and luck in your practices. Okay, speak to you soon.